China and the EU wrapped up negotiations for a landmark investment treaty, the Comprehensive Agreement on Investment, on December the 30th, 2020. The deal took 35 rounds of negotiations over 7 years and is expected to inject new vitality into the post-pandemic global economy. As part of the agreement, China said it would make continued and sustained efforts by ratifying international conventions on banning forced labor. What's the significance of this commitment and what would that mean for both sides? Joining me today for the discussion are Professor Hongjian, Director of the Department of European Studies at the China Institute of International Studies, and Francesco Sisci, Senior Researcher at the Center for European Studies at Renmin University of China. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. So some clause from the key elements of the EU-China Comprehensive Agreement on Investment published by the European Commission on December the 30th, it says China commits in the areas of labor and environment not to lower the standards of protection in order to attract investment, not to use labor and environment standards for protectionist purposes, as well as to respect its international obligations in the relevant treaties. China will support the uptake of corporate social responsibility by its companies. Professor Cui, let's start by talking about the labor factor here. What's the context of China's commitment? On the issue of forced labor, for instance, forced labor in quotation marks to some, did China really have these systematic problems that were criticized by foreign media and foreign authorities all the time?
I think first of all, the Chinese commitment on these some items of the labor force, it's in the line of this, as we know, the International Organization of Labor. And as we know, China is a very important member of this organization. And also China is a permanent council for this organization. So I don't think there's any conflicts of this Chinese commitment and also some existence like that. I think that this issue in China is there is not any existence of China takes the use of the labor and in this some forced way, and also to violent some items from ILO. As we know, China so far not yet ratified the full convention of ILO, but it doesn't mean that China is violating them. So I think this commitment is in line or in the interest of China to promote continually the neighbors' welfare and also the rights and something else. So I don't think it's a kind of issue just like some foreign media comments that China takes some compromise by the pressure from European Union side. I don't think that's the case.
We'll talk about that in just a moment. I want to go to Sisci and get your take, Sisci, on what do you think will be the changes in practical terms? What do you understand is the situation now, and what will change under these new commitment on the ground?
Well, we shall see, because this is a commitment, as you said, in principle. Everything has to be ratified by both I wouldn't say countries, but one country and the Union. And also we have to follow closely, but I guess we will talk about it more later, also on the impact of this agreement with the United States. I think the main result of this agreement is improving China's relations with Europe and possibly also with the United States in a crucial moment for China and for the world. Whatever is the practical results, this is a very first important signal that China is willing to engage the EU and possibly also the United States on some very crucial issues, is willing to reach a compromise, to reach an agreement, to make steps forward. And this is extremely positive for the future. However, we have to see what comes next.
Yeah, well, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce also responded on the December 30th about China's position, saying that the Chinese side has always attached importance to the issues of sustainable development, including environmental protection and protection of workers' rights and interests, and has implemented the new development philosophy and pursued people-centered development concept. Professor Cui, for those who are not very familiar with the Chinese jargon, help us understand what does the Chinese authorities mean here by saying implementing the new development philosophy and pursuing people-centered development concept? What is China's rationale, or how has China explained this step to its domestic audiences?
So if we take a look at all of these principles for this for this treaty agreement, we can find out they are always in the same line with the Chinese, especially recent years, the Chinese government's commitment on its sustainable development, including the green development and also high quality development. So I think now, this time, we also need to know something more from this spokesperson from the Ministry of Commerce comment on this agreement, that this is a kind of comprehensive and also high quality and also a sustainable agreement, and it's a showcase of China is getting a kind of institutional openness. So if we know that now China also is in the way of the to promote its rule of law, so we can find out it's a systemic commitment, and also it's also the showcase or reflection of China its own development in the recent years. So I think it's just this time by finishing this agreement, it's just an opportunity for China to express itself as a whole, especially the new philosophy and also the new stage of Chinese development.
Well, the press release by the EU said that EU and China reach agreement in principle on investment, and that for the first time, China has also agreed to ambitious provisions on sustainable development, including commitments on forced labor and the ratification of the relevant ILO fundamental conventions, ILO being the International Labour Office. Professor Cui, once again to you, is this really the first time, according to the Chinese side? If so, why did China agree to such ambitious provisions? Did China bow to EU's pressure?
Except for this description of ambitious commitment from China, if we look at the reality, especially in Chinese law and also the policies from government, we can find that recently China tried to promote this the law and also some policy to promote this to protect the labor's rights, and including this law of the labor and some other. So we can find it's not a the forced commitment from European Union side to China. I think it's just a very, very natural and also the rational result or outcomes for Chinese its own development in recent years.
Sisci, according to, again, the same document on key elements, China commits not to use labor and environment standards for protectionist purposes in terms of environment. What specifically does that refer to? Would China be lowering the attractiveness of its environment or the competitiveness of the Chinese business environment?
No, I think if this, in theory, should improve a key element in trade. I mean, there has been in the past a lot of controversy about the fact that China managed to have low production costs thanks to its disregards for environmental protection and labor protection, and this would cost doubly to the world, because of course this would cause damage to the global environmental sustainability, to workers, and also would unfairly create advantage for Chinese goods and exports. Now, if this is taken care, you would have multiple positive effects, less damage for the environment, greater protection for the labor force in China, and also more of a level field for competition for goods exports. So I would say these are key elements that would help the integration of China into the global commerce and in accordance also to the World Trade Organization provisions.
Yeah.
And this could be very important overall, despite whatever minutiae will be discussed about.
Yeah, let me come to that very important question that I promised to talk about. For instance, a CNN report from December the 31st said China committed to work towards the ratification of outstanding ILO conventions. However, critics have pointed out the lack of concrete commitment in this regard, saying that China, committed itself to ratifying, but it didn't say it will, or a specific timetable. And exactly, China was a founding member of the ILO, and the rules in question have been enforced for decades, and yet it seems that China has not acted upon improving the labor standard, according to this article. So, Professor Cui, what makes it more believable to these Westerners that this time China made the commitment it's going to make a difference?
Firstly, I think for this agreement, especially from the European Union side and also from China, both sides will have some, systemic, instrument to help and to help the implementation of this agreement, and also even in the way of the law. And also, I think that agreement is a very important part of the agreement, that both sides will try to make it reality. The other, I think, the issue should be that China is become more self-confidence, and China will take the value of its image in the international community, and to make a credible, country, to make a credible, international player. So I don't think it's a case that China will finish the negotiation and sign the agreement, and China will violate it. China will not, take action to implement it. So I think that also, of course, there will be some challenge for China to try to, make every efforts to make it a reality. But I believe that China will do something, will do everything, and it can.
We'll keep a close eye on the development. Many thanks to my two guests, Hongjian and Francesco Sisci.